latest rumours seem to suggest that he isn't even in Cairo anymore. We've heard the ones about the fact that he may have left Cairo. Well, what they've just announced here on the stage is that in fact he's heading to the airport to leave Egypt altogether. Lots of speculation about where he is and where he's going, and clearly this is the kind of town that thrives on rumour, and what people here want to know very much is exactly where he is and to what extent he remains in charge.
Melissa, is there much army presence where you are?
Yes, the army have maintained a presence throughout this. All the main arteries that lead onto this square are blocked off, first of all, by the army tanks. So in order to get in and out of the square, you have to pass through army checkpoints. But beyond that, you pass through checkpoints that are set up by volunteers that belong to the Tahrir Square movement. And all around Cairo at strategic locations, like state television, where a protest is now ongoing, like the presidential palace, there are clearly many tanks on the streets of Cairo. I mean, it would be foolish to suggest that beyond Tahrir Square this is a city that looks anything like normal. There is a heavy military presence. Crucially, of course, the military has remained neutral, and what was interesting about its statement today was that it seemed convinced that it needed to remain neutral. I mean, sure, it came down on the side of the regime, and yet how did it do it? It did it by saying that the emergency powers would be lifted when circumstances allowed, one of the key demands of the protesters. So right to the bitter end, it seems as though the army has tried, although it's come down on the side of the regime, to show the protesters that it is not against them. That might change once this protest spills out beyond Tahrir Square, which is what's happening now. Clearly, at some point, order has to be restored to the streets.
And Melissa, it looks like order is far from restored at the moment, because there's just hundreds of thousands of people. Just describe to us Tahrir Square this Friday afternoon.
Oh, it's absolutely extraordinary. I've been here for much of the last week, and clearly the numbers have been growing and quite extraordinary. But really, perhaps you could have a look behind me at the people who are in the square now. You still have this mixture of people. There are women, there are children, but it seemed to me, watching them arrive for morning prayer today, that there were a greater and greater proportion of men, and very angry young men at that. And the great crowds, the great hordes of people that you see leaving the square to head to other parts are made up of angry men carrying flags, chanting slogans, and heading in a very determined manner both to the television station and to the presidential palace. So the atmosphere is extremely tense. People are very wound up and very keen to show that they're simply not going to sit back and have their revolution taken away from them and have the regime stay in place with the help of the army.
Melissa Bell in Cairo, thank you very much indeed. Well, this is day 18 of protests. Let's just take a look back now on how things have developed in Egypt since the uprising began all those weeks ago.
The 25th of January, the day of anger. Inspired by the Tunisian revolution,